Welcome, listeners, to another Deep Dives, where we unpack complex topics to give you the essential insights. Today, we're diving into a situation that, well, it sparked widespread anger and frustration among millions of students across India. We're talking about the recent Staff Selection Commission, the SSC Phase 13 examination.
Yes, it's definitely caught a lot of attention and for some pretty serious reasons.
We've received really a stack of sources detailing some alarming irregularities. We're seeing everything from technical glitches and just chaotic exam centers to allegations of paper leaks and even questions about how the vendor was selected.
It's quite a list.
It is. So our mission today is to distill what happened, understand the implications, and maybe explore why this isn't just about one single exam, but potentially points to an entire system at a critical juncture.
Right. A breaking point, perhaps?
You're about to hear some, frankly, surprising facts and stories from the ground, illustrating the immense challenges these students faced. So what exactly went wrong during the SSC Phase 13 exams? Okay, let's unpack this.
It's a compelling story because the issues began to surface almost immediately. The SSC Phase 13 exams, they were held from July 24th to August 1st, 2025. These are to fill Group B and Group C posts in various government ministries' departments. Millions of students applied. I mean, huge numbers.
Millions. And they invest so much hope, so much effort into this.
Absolutely. Months, years of preparation.
And from our sources, it sounds like the problem started even before the first question was answered. Like with the admit cards. Usually they're issued maybe 4 days prior.
That's the standard, yeah, 4 days. But for this one, many students received them only 2 days before.
2 days. That's cutting it close.
And shockingly, a significant number received blank admit cards.
Blank. Just nothing on them.
Completely blank. Imagine you're 48 hours from this massive exam and you don't even have a proper admission ticket. The anxiety must have been immense.
That's an immediate red flag right there. And then it just escalated on July 24th, the very first day. What kinds of technical failures were reported once the exams actually began?
Oh, the reports just flooded in. Biometric systems, the fingerprint scanners and things, they often failed.
So people couldn't even get in.
Exactly, causing huge delays or even preventing students from taking the exam altogether. And then if you did get in mid-exam, computers would just freeze.
Freeze? For how long?
For 10 to 15 minutes sometimes. It just locked up, pausing precious exam time. And in competitive exams, every single second counts.
Absolutely. That breaks your concentration, your flow. What about the computers themselves? The hardware?
Yeah, lots of complaints there too. Many centers apparently had outdated or just faulty computers. Screens would just go blank.
Blank, like off.
Yeah, for 10, 15 minutes, or the whole system would just completely crash.
Unbelievable.
And if that wasn't enough, students reported these incredibly poor quality computer mice. Like you had to click 4 or 5 times just to select an answer.
4 or 5 clicks, you'd waste so much time.
Exactly. And when students complained, the centers apparently just refused to replace them. It's like trying to run a sprint with, shoes that don't fit.
It totally compromises the fairness, doesn't it? Were these just hardware issues, or were there other technical problems?
Not just hardware. Some centers had power outages or server crashes.
With no backup.
Apparently no backup systems in some places. This meant papers wouldn't load properly, especially questions with images, which are obviously crucial.
Right, you need to see the image to answer.
And then for the math sections, the rough work, students were given pens described as being like birthday candles.
Birthday candles? What does that even mean?
So poor quality, they could barely write with them, struggling to just jot down calculations.
Wow. Were these issues, isolated incidents, or did they actually lead to exams being canceled?
No, not isolated at all. Several exams were canceled right in the middle of them because of all these technical and administrative failures.
Like where?
For instance, the 9:30 a.m. exam at Edukasa International Center in Karnataka, that was called off, and at Pawan Ganga Education Center in Delhi, exams from July 24th to the 26th were just canceled outright.
So 3 whole days of exams canceled there.
Yes. But the chaos wasn't just limited to the tech side. It extended to the actual physical environment of the exam centers, too.
Okay, what were the conditions like? What were students facing physically?
Reports described a complete lack of basic amenities. We're talking no fans in the heat.
No fan.
Broken chairs, really cramped rooms, no drinking water available, and even non-functional washrooms.
That's just basic dignity, isn't it?
It really is. And adding to the stress, some centers were in these incredibly remote and frankly unsafe-sounding locations,
How remote?
described as looking like a jungle or the middle of a field, maybe 7 or 8 kilometers from the nearest station, with no transport options provided.
So students had to find their own way out to the middle of nowhere.
Pretty much. And then some of the surroundings were just bizarre.
Bizarre how?
Well, we have reports of centers where cows and buffaloes were literally tied up on the ground floor while the exam was happening on the floor above.
You're kidding.
Cows. Not kidding. And in another instance, a DJ was apparently playing music loudly right next to the exam hall.
A DJ. During a major government recruitment exam.
Can you imagine trying to focus on complex problems with loud music blasting next door?
That's almost unbelievable. What kind of emotional toll does all this take? These students prepare for so long.
Oh, the toll is immense. I mean, you spend months, maybe years studying 10+ hours a day. You pour everything into this, and then you face these conditions. You feel like all that hard work just went to waste. It's not just an inconvenience, it's crushing. It really shakes their trust in the whole system.
Absolutely. And the unprofessionalism, it seems, didn't stop with the conditions or the tech. What about the staff? The invigilators?
Yeah, reports from students paint a pretty bad picture there, too. Invigilators apparently using their phones during the exam.
What, like scrolling?
Watching reels, chatting amongst themselves, basically not supervising. And in some centers, sources say there were no invigilators present at all.
None. That's a massive breach of protocol. How can you ensure integrity then?
You really can't. It completely undermines the exam's security.
And what's even more shocking, according to our sources, is how centers responded when students complained about these things.
This part is deeply concerning. It's reported that some exam centers actually had bouncers present.
Bouncers? Like at a nightclub. Why?
Apparently, to silence students who raised issues about the mismanagement. There were even allegations, very serious ones, of students being beaten or, in one report, having their head broken for protesting.
Beaten for complaining about exam conditions? That's horrifying. It raises huge questions about student safety and their rights.
It really does. And if all that wasn't enough to undermine trust, students also raised serious concerns about the integrity of the exam papers themselves.
What were those concerns?
They alleged that the papers for the second and third shifts of the exam were like 70 to 80% identical.
70 to 80% the same.
Yeah. Which naturally raises massive red flags about potential cheating and, paper leaks if the later shifts knew what was coming.
It completely invalidates the results for those shifts, potentially. It suggests a fundamental failure in handling the exam materials securely.
Absolutely. Major failure.
So, okay, beyond the actual exam day chaos,
Yeah.
the tech, the conditions, the staff, the paper integrity, concerns how were these centers even chosen? Usually students get preferences, right?
Right. It adds another layer of just frustration. Normally, you list your preferred cities, first, second, third choice, and the SSC typically assigns you one of those. That's the standard practice.
But it seems like for Phase 13, that standard practice just went out the window. What happened?
Completely. We saw students who chose, say, Delhi and Noida as their preference.
Major hubs, easy to reach for many.
Exactly. They were assigned centers way out in Haryana instead. And incredibly, many students were assigned centers thousands of kilometers from their homes.
Thousands. Give me an example.
Okay, there's one instance reported of a student from Kanpur in Uttar Pradesh being sent to central Karnataka.
Kanpur to central Karnataka. That's got to be, what, nearly 2,000 kilometers?
Approximately, yeah. And sources say some were assigned centers up to 5,000 kilometers away.
5,000 kilometers? That's like traveling across the entire country. It's absurd.
It's incredibly burdensome financially and logistically. And what was the ultimate frustration for some who made these huge journeys?
Tell me.
The ultimate frustration, as reported, was for students who traveled these massive distances, maybe 400 kilometers, maybe more, only to arrive at the center and find their exam was canceled.
Canceled upon arrival. With no prior notice.
Apparently no prior notification. Just show up after traveling for hours or days and boom, sorry, exam's canceled.
That is just awful. It shows such a breakdown in planning and communication.
A significant flaw impacting students so severely.
So who is behind all this? Who's running the show here? Our sources point directly to a company called Eduquity Career Technologies. Apparently the SSC doesn't have its own online exam software. They rely on these vendor companies like Eduquity for pretty much everything.
That's right. The software, the biometric systems, the logistics, even deciding on the exam center assignments, it seems. It's outsourced.
And until April 2025, Tata Consultancy Services, TCS, they held the contract, right? They're generally seen as pretty reliable for these things.
Yes, TCS had the contract for years, but then it was awarded to Eduquity.
Okay, so what do we know about Eduquity? What's their track record?
Well, this is where it gets really concerning. Eduquity has quite a troubled history, according to the sources.
How so?
Back in 2020, the Central Directorate General of Training had actually declared Eduquity ineligible to conduct exams.
Ineligible. But they still got contracts.
Apparently so. Despite being flagged like that, they continued to receive contracts.
And this wasn't just a one-off issue, was it? Our sources detail a pattern. Can you walk us through some of these other problematic contracts before the SSC Phase 13 disaster?
Sure. So in March 2022, Eduquity got a contract for the Madhya Pradesh Teacher Eligibility Test, the MPTET. But reports say instead of doing it themselves, they subcontracted it to another company, Sedware Private Limited.
Wait, they subcontracted a government exam contract?
Seems so. And that led to a paper leak. Screenshots of the exam paper went viral on social media before or during the test.
A major leak. What happened then?
Well, despite that huge issue, just a year later, Eduquity received another contract in Madhya Pradesh, this time for the MP Patwari exam.
After a paper leak.
Yes. And that exam also saw widespread cheating complaints. It got so bad that the chief minister had to halt the recruitment process and order an inquiry.
So 2 major incidents in MP alone. Any others?
Yes, the pattern continues. Even after the Patwari inquiry was ordered, in December 2023, Eduquity secured another contract with the MP Employee Selection Board. And around the same time, in March of that year, Maharashtra's Common Entrance Test Cell also gave Eduquity a contract for an MBA entrance exam.
And let me guess.
More problems. Reports of irregularities, paper leaks, and cheating allegations surfaced there too.
So it really sounds like a very clear pattern.
Yeah.
Wherever Eduquity conducted exams, serious allegations of cheating and leaks followed.
That's what the sources strongly suggest, yes.
Given this history, how on earth did SSC justify awarding them this massive, critical contract for Phase 13 and presumably others?
Well, the official justification cited by SSC was that Eduquity submitted the lowest bid.
The lowest bid. Even with that track record.
That seems to be the reason given. What's really striking here, though, is that this wasn't unforeseen.
What do you mean?
Long before the exam, users on social media platforms like Reddit, for example, were already warning about it. They were saying, expect chaos if Eduquity gets the contract. They predicted significant problems.
So people online saw this coming.
It appears so. And sure enough, on July 24th, the very first day of the exam, social media just exploded with complaints. Hashtags like #SSC vendor failure, #SSC mismanagement, #SS reform started trending immediately.
And it wasn't just students, right? Teachers got involved too.
Yes, large numbers of teachers actively supported the students. Some reported that the SSC director himself acknowledged receiving over 55,000 complaints about these exams.
55,000 complaints. That's staggering.
It is. And it understandably raised massive concerns about the upcoming CGL exam, the combined graduate level exam.
That's the really big one, isn't it?
Huge. Over 30 lakh. That's 3 million students. And that contract was also given to Eduquity. People were asking how on earth that exam would be managed given the Phase 13 experience.
Right, you'd be terrified if you were prepping for CGL. So this brings us to the broader implications, the student response. What happened next?
Well, the anger moved beyond just social media. The protests shifted from digital to the real world. There was a call for Delhi Chalo, go to Delhi, and it culminated in thousands gathering in Delhi on July 31st.
Thousands of students and teachers.
Yes. And their demands were very clear, very specific.
What were they asking for?
1. Revoke Eduquity's contract immediately and give it back to TCS, the previous vendor. 2. Postpone the upcoming SSC CGL exam until that vendor change happens. 3. Conduct a transparent investigation into how Eduquity got the contract in the first place, given their history. And 4. Hold re-examinations for all the students affected by the Phase 13 mess at the government's expense.
Those seem like pretty reasonable demands given the circumstances.
They certainly seem aimed at restoring fairness and trust.
Our sources mention that over 1,000 students and teachers gathered outside the Department of Personnel and Training office. They were trying to meet the Minister of State for Public Grievances, Jitendra Singh.
That's right. They wanted to present their case directly.
What was the government's response to these peaceful protests?
Well, the response reported wasn't exactly welcoming. Police apparently prevented any meetings from happening. Prominent teachers and protesting students were detained, put on buses, and just driven around for hours. Sources say the police seem unsure where to even take them.
Driven around. That sounds like an intimidation tactic.
Yep. There were also allegations of highly charged police using batons and physical assault on some protesters.
Assault on students and teachers protesting exam failures.
That's what's alleged. Some teachers reported being treated, in their words, like criminals, despite years of teaching and trying to help their students.
And the government's official stance during all this.
Largely silent, according to reports from that time. However, the leader of the opposition, Rahul Gandhi, did comment, posting on Twitter calling it a failure of the Modi government.
Okay, so this really feels like it goes way beyond just one exam or even one vendor. Our sources stress this isn't isolated.
Exactly. It suggests a much larger, maybe systemic issue within India's recruitment processes.
In what way?
Over the past few years, we've seen numerous protests erupt due to exam irregularities across different sectors. It's not just SSC. There have been alleged UPSC paper leaks. That's the civil services exam. There have been reports of IBPS scams in banking recruitment, RRB protests related to railway jobs.
This is happening across the board.
It seems to be a recurring theme. And the broader concern articulated in some sources is this feeling that the entire recruitment system is collapsing. There's a perception that the government seems unable to provide a fair, reliable system, even for the existing jobs, let alone creating new opportunities.
That's a very bleak assessment.
It is. And what this deep dive really illuminates, I think, is how those specific, almost sometimes bizarre details from this SSC Phase 13 exam, the malfunctioning mouse, the cows downstairs, the DJ.
Yeah, the details really stick with you.
They paint such a vivid picture, but they point to that much larger systemic problem in the whole recruitment process. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, it really forces you to question, are these recurring failures just, unfortunate one-offs?
Right.
Or are they actually symptoms of a deeper structural flaw, a flaw that maybe undermines the aspirations of millions of young people?
Exactly. You hear these stories, the sheer scale of it, the impact on individual lives. It really makes you wonder about the long-term effect. These are young people, the future of the country, basically.
Yeah.
And their trust in fundamental systems, like how public jobs are awarded, is being severely tested, isn't it?
Deeply tested. And the demands from the students, as we noted, they seem pretty straightforward on the surface. Get a reliable vendor back, redo the exams for those affected, maybe look into the SSC developing its own software eventually, which could save money and improve transparency in the long run.
Right. Having their own system might prevent some of this vendor chaos.
Potentially. But the situation also really forces you to think about the fragility of public trust. What happens when these vital institutions seem to prioritize, say, cost-cutting over basic competence and fairness?
It erodes everything. This deep dive, it's really shown us the very real human cost of these administrative failures, and it highlights just how urgent the need is for a system that's robust, transparent, and fundamentally fair.
Couldn't agree more.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? Well, it's perhaps a powerful reminder. A reminder that while you're pursuing your goals, whatever they may be, understanding the potential systemic challenges you might face, and maybe even advocating for fairness, for yourself and others, that can be just as crucial as your own preparation. Because ultimately, a fair system benefits everyone. One exam, especially a flawed one, shouldn't define your entire life.
Well said. Resilience becomes key.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into what is clearly a critical issue affecting millions. We hope this exploration gives you a clearer understanding of the challenges faced by students in India and maybe the broader implications for the nation's recruitment system. We definitely encourage you to continue exploring these issues of transparency, accountability, and fairness in large-scale public systems.